Let's talk about how a masculine man leads his wife through her emotions and does not allow her emotions to lead the household. So every household is led by somebody. And in a godly home, that leadership belongs to the man. Not necessarily by force, but by order, how we are created, our biblical and biological roles. But many homes today are emotionally led because the man refuses to be spiritually and emotionally grounded. A woman's emotions are not the problem. The problem is when a man doesn't have the strength to lead her through those emotions, when a man isn't in his masculine state to lead her through that. We can really dive into scripture from Proverbs 31. Talks about a noble wife, the character of a noble woman. A wife of noble character, she is worth far more than gold and rubies. She speaks wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. Her child arises and calls her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Let's think about Proverbs 31. I mean, a woman will multiply our efforts in every facet, in every area of our life. A good wife will multiply our efforts. She should be your confidant. So I want you guys to kind of think of this. If a noble wife is a powerful gift, but she flourishes under the covering and leadership of a strong man, right? Because she's not going to be able to do this if she's not under the leadership of a really strong man. She is full of wisdom, instruction, very much so. But that doesn't mean she was designed to lead the emotional atmosphere in the home. That is our job as men. So are you currently praising your wife every day? Does she feel seen? Does she feel like she's in a stable place due to your leadership? Or is she compensating for your emotional instability as a man? Proverbs 29:11. A fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man quietly holds it back. This doesn't mean that we bottle things up. This does not mean that we suppress our emotions. It means that we lead with discipline. As men, you don't get to explode when she's emotional. Okay, that does not add up. You match chaos with chaos. That's not good. Again, you don't just get to explode when she's emotional. Chaos with chaos is always going to end up in failure. You're supposed to be her anchor, not her mirror in those situations. So ask yourself, are you reacting to her emotions or are you regulating your own first? Do your kids hear you raise your voice more than they hear you leading the family in prayer? Let that one sink in. And we have to remember that a woman's emotions are not a threat in any way, shape, or form. Your weakness is a threat to the household, though. Women are emotional beings by design. This is also part of their strength. But God did not design women to have their emotions be the govern of the household. He did not design them to have their emotions run the household. That is why a man must be grounded in his identity and his God-given role in the most masculine role possible so that he can support her through those situations. Again, ask yourself this: when she's anxious, do you panic or are you the peace? Are you the peace because you're in your masculine role, or do you feel that you're quote unquote at peace because you're very passive? Each are not good. So when she's angry or insecure, do you become passive or combative? Or do you show up with calm strength, true leadership? Okay, if you don't lead her through her emotions, those emotions will lead you. Okay, emotional leadership means listening patiently, validating what's real. Emotions are good. We have to remember this, that emotions are good. We have all sorts of emotions. And just because you validate her emotions does not necessarily mean you're telling her she is right. Again, just because you, as a man, can't control your emotions, that doesn't mean that she needs to tell you that you are right as well. Okay, so how are we being so supportive and guiding her out of the emotional fog into truth. How do we never make decisions based on our emotional spikes? You need to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. Okay, you need to be the one who can kind of cool the area. Do you bring clarity as a man or confusion during conflict? Have you built a home where emotional explosions are normal or redirected? Think about your household, because if we don't intentionally create the culture in our household as men, then a culture will be created whether we like it or not, good, bad, or ugly. Remember that leadership does not necessarily mean control. Leading her doesn't mean shutting her down, steamrolling her, ignoring her emotions. That is an immature man who gets upset at the wife for having these feels because he's used to be treating as a child. Okay, we have to, as men, be creating this safe environment throughout all time, throughout history, place where the wife feels emotionally secure, emotionally safe, regardless. So as men, we have to create an environment where she feels safe. There is no fear. There is no fear if she gets emotional. And you have to stay strong through these emotions. In Ephesians 5:25, it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and died for her. Okay, are we doing that? Christ didn't react emotionally in his role. Christ never reacted emotionally to his bride, which is the church. He sacrificed for the greater good of humanity. That is our model. Christ was calm, patient, sacrificial, truth-centered leadership. So are you correcting out of pride, or are you correcting with purpose for the betterment of the household? Or is there some sort of pride, some sort of insecurity and inadequacy? I say inadequacy because you don't know how to lead her through her emotions. You don't understand what her emotional triggers are. You can't see the emotional anxiety starting to build up to therefore be like, hey, I got you. I'm here to support you. Can she come to you in emotional chaos and know for a fact that you'll bring order and not steamroll? And then how are you auditing the emotional habits in your household? I suggest this week, you literally track how many times you raise your voice, how many times you avoid having a hard conversation. Are you matching her emotions versus anchoring them? Self-awareness is the first step to emotional leadership. Where are you? Do you allow your central nervous system to get dysregulated? Therefore, it impacting your emotions, therefore impacting your thoughts and your words. How is it that you're starting off your morning? Do you lead the day by reading scripture, praying over your wife and kids, declaring your home's emotional atmosphere? Lead her in real time. When your wife upset, don't just say, calm down. Say, let's talk about this. Put your hands on her. Make sure she feels physically safe and emotionally safe. The physical touch is going to release oxytocin. Don't worry, I tend to speak English sometimes. Let her know that you guys can work through it and you're not going anywhere. That the emotions aren't going to scare you, because it scares a child, a little boy. They will be scared of a woman's emotions. So you got to stay firm and not fragile. Make sure you're present. Do not be passive. And then speak her identity. In Proverbs 31:28, praise her out loud. So if she has any insecurities which are causing these emotions, how do you speak affirmations that outweigh those insecurities? How do you let her know that you're in her corner, that you have her back, that you have her support? How do you understand what her emotional triggers are? Your tones, your words, the calm, your tone, your words, how calm you are is going to give her the emotional room to return to her strength. I always tell couples this, men, here's something that you can do. Literally on a nice day, go for a walk, hold her hand, talk to her, ask her what the top 3 things are where she feels the most emotionally safe. Getting to just already get in that mindset. You're not allowed to take any of this personal if she doesn't say that one of them is holding your hand, walking with you. Just what are the top 3 places that she feels the most physically, emotionally safe? And then you're going to ask her, what are the top 3 things where she doesn't feel emotionally, physically safe? And again, you cannot take these personal. And then you're going to ask her, what are the top 3 where she does not feel emotionally, physically safe? What are those? Because then you're going to understand what her emotional triggers are. And then you can kind of have a conversation of like, all right, how do we create a mindset of the safest ones with the non-safest ones? Because I mean, we live in a pretty safe overall society. We have access to everything. But it doesn't mean that those 3 that she feels the least safe are not real. It could be the simplest thing of her emotional triggers or anxiety start to rise if there's not food in the fridge. Who knows why? Or if she's worried about how maybe the schooling of your children are going. Can he read at his grade level? That may negatively impact her, and you may not care. But that doesn't mean that you should not support her. So just remember, if your wife's emotions feel overwhelming, it's because your masculine frame is underdeveloped. I'm going to repeat that. If your wife's emotions feel overwhelming, it's because your masculine frame is underdeveloped. She's not the problem. Your masculine foundation is the problem. If you want more, check out my school community. Link is in my Instagram bio at Jesse Carstairs. You can check out my school. It's called school.com/ultimate husband. My school is called The High Value Life. Check it out. I do 5 live calls on this stuff every single week. Let's go. Lead your wife. Stop being a pansy.